welcome the lovely Lea Thompson. Our next guest, of course, you know from Taxi and Star Trek 3, and I tell you what, the one line of dialogue this man has probably said most in his career is "Great Scott." So why don't we welcome him with a great Scott of our own. So on the count of three, 1, 2, 3. Great Scott! Christopher Lloyd. Certainly not least, 5-time Emmy winner, Spin City, Michael J. Fox Show, Family Ties, Teen Wolf, etc., etc., etc. He is the one, the only Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox. Well, that's the joke couch.
Yeah, whoopee couch.
That's right. So, let's start at the beginning. Let's get a few questions in, and then we're going to get questions from everybody else. Michael, you may be a little surprised to hear this, but you were not the first guy to play Marty McFly.
I heard that.
Okay. So tell us how you found out about Marty, and then the process immediately followed.
Well, I first heard about the movie. I was doing. It was a nightmare. I was having a terrible day. It was like 90 degrees. I was in Pasadena. I had werewolf makeup on, and I was sweltering. I was drinking my lunch through a straw, and then somebody came by my trailer and said that there were location scouts on our set looking at the sidewalks to shoot scenes for a movie called Back to the Future. It was going to be a Spielberg movie, and they said Crispin Glover was in it. And I knew Crispin Glover, and I love Crispin Glover, but I was really pissed that he was in this movie, and I'm a werewolf. and then as time went on, they started the movie in October or something. And in November, I got a call to Gary Goldberg's office, producer of Family Ties, and he said they had Stephen and Bob had come to him earlier in October and asked if I was free to do this movie, and he said I wasn't, which I understand. He wanted me to continue doing the show, and he didn't tell me about it. So first I heard about it. She said that they'd come to him, and now they come to him again because they worked with this actor, and who was a great actor who I knew and respected, but he just wasn't goofy enough, I guess. So they wanted somebody goofier, and they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said yes immediately before I read it. And then I sort of just whirlwind the weekend, like saying, yeah, I'll wear the white shoes with the red stripe, and yeah, I'll wear this vest, and all this stuff. We made all these decisions so fast that are now kind of iconic things. We just came up with it really quickly, and then I was in the parking lot, and we went to Hills with flames running through my legs.
So you, from the time that Gary David Goldberg gave you that script and you read it, you literally had days to memorize new dialogue, to get the character together, and then keep doing Family Ties at the same time.
Yeah, it was strange. It was the weirdest part was I was doing both at the same time. I was doing the movie at night and back to Family Ties in the daytime. And it did get to a point where I was waiting backstage at the kitchen set at Family Ties. They wanted to do a scene, and all of a sudden I panicked because I couldn't find my Sony hand recorder. And I was looking for my camera, and I don't need my camera. And then I called Michael Gross Doc a couple times. Get confusing.
of the movie and done some very important scenes. And then Michael came in, and in fact, I think the last scenes that each of you had filmed with Eric were the first scenes that you filmed with Michael. Was it a little disconcerting? What was the feeling of how that went?
Yeah, it was disconcerting, especially because they told us that they would use some of the footage that we had shot with Eric, with Michael, like our close-ups and stuff, which I didn't approve of at all because it was such a different approach to the character. It didn't seem fair, you know, because half of the scene is the other.
It was goofy and half of it.
Yeah, you were goofy. That's right. It was hard to keep the straight faces you. But it was definitely one of the most interesting experiences of my life to shoot two scenes with the same scene with two different actors.
My first concern when it was like abrupt. I don't know, maybe it was.
Abrupt is even worse for it.
You know, we broke for, we were working at mall, city of industry, from sunset to sunrise for a few nights. About 1 a.m., which was like our lunchtime. We broke for lunch. We were told we were to go near one of the vehicles there. There was an announcement going to be made. I had absolutely no inkling that I was going to hear what I heard that Eric Stoltz was no longer with us. I think he'd been there in the earlier part of the evening, but suddenly he was evaporated. And this announcement, Steven Spielberg got up on the thing and announced that this change was made. And my initial reaction was, I felt that I had kind of struggled to get Doc right in those early takes. I thought, oh my God, I don't know if I can do that again. You know, so I was like, I thought I'd gotten that out of my system, but now I had to go regurgitate. And to, you know, to get, but somehow chemistry, it was easy, it just happened. It happened, and they just kept happening. It was great.
Well, I would have to mention how I felt like these guys are so good and knew these characters so well, and it was just an amazing experience.
I mean, and Michael, you said this before about Chris's dialogue, all of that laying the pipe kind of situation.
Well, I just said the thing I always say about Chris is that there's an expression in acting and film and theater and television about laying the pipe, which is saying the exposition, saying the part, like especially in fantasy and science fiction movies. Someone has to explain how it works. Someone has to explain, well, if you go through this door, then it all gets foggy, and then you get transported to another kingdom, or whatever the rules are. It's the rules, and it's laying pipe, and it's really thankless. It's not exciting. You're just laying out this information. He does it like Rembrandt. He can do it and entertain you while he's doing it. Go in here, you're gonna blow up. This guy lays pipe like no one ever seen. He made it magical, and I mean, he has many gifts, but that's one of the best among them. He's a great storyteller. He can tell you a story, and you don't know you're getting the medicine. He's feeding you your medicine, and taking it and enjoying it.
And Chris, you know,
I just knew that I had to start, be memorized at least a week before that, you know, memorize the material that's going to come up a week later, and keep things going that way. Otherwise, I'd be lost. Right, I remember there was an accident near the start of the shooting of Back to the Future 2. I wasn't present on the set, but there was, you know, like trees.
The stunt woman.
Yeah. And So the schedule, suddenly, from day to day, you never knew what was going to be scheduled. And I was in panic because I just thought, I can't sleep until I learn the whole script so that I can sleep. You know, I had to just, so that was just scary into.
Did you memorize the script for part 3 as well while you were doing that?
I just had part 3 in my hands, but I thought it up.
Now, in part 2, there were a lot of special effects. Michael, you were having dinner as Marty Sr. and Marty Jr. and Marlene and Doc 1955, which in fact was our first night of shooting on Back to the Future 2, which, if I remember correctly, you told me was the most terrifying night of all 3 movies for you. Why?
I feel like I'm on the couch.
Well,
that first night of the shooting of Back to the Future 2 was kind of an all-night shoot, it seems to me. And I had to recreate again, trying to do what I'd already done. The end when I'm euphoric. Mm-hmm. You go off and I'm dancing in the street. And I just didn't know where I was going to dredge that from. And then I was on the bicycle and I had to be both knees doing that thing up the pole there.
Paradox.
Yeah, back and forth. And so I was kind of intimidated by that. And downhill the rest of the way.
well, but after we did those scenes, the last scene of the night, Michael came in, you had finished Family Ties, and came in and did the very last scene from part 2, where you come running around and say, I'm back from the future. And you guys hadn't been together for 4 years, and the chemistry, again, was instantaneous. Do you remember that night? Do you remember much of the film?
No, I don't. You're talking about specifically the last night of 2?
The last scene in 2, you've disappeared, Doc is running around, and then all of a sudden you come running around the corner,
right.
Doc, I'm back from the future.
Right. Yeah, it was, I mean, all that stuff was just, it was a blur to me. I have a hard time, I remember some specific scenes, shooting them, but I don't often remember the circumstances around the scenes, except that at the beginning, certainly that, like, that flames going through my legs, and you made a time machine out of the DeLorean, and all those scenes we shot there. But the whole thing, it's funny, separated by 5 years, but it seems like one continuous thing to me. 1, 2, and 3. It all runs together. So I remember scenes like in 1, our scene where I wake up in her room. I mean, I'll never forget that scene. And I'll never forget, like, I was like, she was so cute. And I had to process she was my mom, but she was really cute. And it was one of our first scenes together. And I just went, oh, this is going to be great.
Well, Lea, when we did all of those special effect shots, even though you weren't playing against yourself, you were very integral to some of those shots, especially the one in the future where they're having dinner with the pizza. So what was the process and what part did you play in there?
Well, the funny thing about that character in Back to the Future 2, where I had to be, 85 or something like that? I remember Bob Zemeckis was like, you're playing old, but you can't play slow. So he was like, you have to be fast. So I was like, oh, I had to like walk around like that. I had to create a character that was fast, but very old. So it just took a lot of little steps. But I think most of the stuff in that was really successful, but I do think it was entirely successful in Back to the Future 3, where with the rabbit, when we were married. That was fun to be married to him and not have it be weird. But there was some like passing of a food, or the baby, work too well. And it was such like the dawn of special effects. I mean, remember that big giant
We thought you were so
camera?
cutting edge.
Yeah, it was this giant camera. And they had seismograph machines so that when we came back the next day, they could see if there had been an earthquake or something.
Yeah.
It was crazy if the camera had moved. I mean, nowadays it would be like, whatever, you know.
Yeah, they just,
But it was hard work. It took days and days.
yeah.
Well, I believe that the pizza scene took like 3 days to shoot. And
Well, just getting him in that girl's wig was.
I like doing that. I get hit by a guard at
you just kept rolling with it. They would say, Michael, we're going to have you play your daughter. I said, okay, well, let's go. And Michael, you're going to play your ancestor, Seamus. And
That's
your
fine.
Irish accent.
That's the job.
I still have that wig if you want it.
The red wig?
Yeah, I stole it. He has a big head though. Another part.
Yeah, big cabeza. Yeah, I wish that I had stolen more stuff.
I don't know.
I mean, I just think about it. If I had that friggin' guitar, even a banana, Chiquita's banana from the end, that'd be great. But I didn't. I was so stupid.
No. Well, I can give you the wig.
Thank you. I'll wear it around the house. Mikey! Where's the button?
So a lot of Back to the Future 1 and 2 was shot at Universal Studios and on a lot of sound stages, darkened sound stages. And then suddenly, for Back to the Future 3, we went out to the Old West, where they had built an entire western town, Hill Valley, of 1885. How liberating and freeing and fun was it to be out there after having been in the sound stages for all that time?
I loved it. Too much. It was great. Whole different scene.
Well, and you guys, Michael, Chris, you spent a lot of time on horseback in that film. Chris, you had already some experience horseback in writing.
Yeah, which was cool. I remember that I'm chasing the train on horseback, galloping alongside the train, because Doc was going to pull himself onto the train in the scene. And I was kind of admonished, don't even try, to do it yourself. That a stunt person would ride and actually do the pulling on dressed as Doc. But I got so close to the handle to the train, it was right within my grasp, and I was so tempted. But I thought if it doesn't work out, it's going to be really messy.
We did. Do the whole thing of your death. Be complicated.
And Michael, you know, when you came in, you knew how to skateboard and you knew how to play the guitar and all that, but horseback riding was not in your.
No, I don't know that horseback riding. But they gave us really good horse and whiskey. I wish I'd stolen whiskey too. He was and he like knew he had an Indian on board, and he just treated me really nicely. And I did the same thing. Chris was galloping in this chasm between a stone wall, like a mountain cliff wall, and a train, and I'm on a horse. And I'm thinking, they had a lot of money wrapped up in me, and I don't know why they're doing this. Because I could die real easily here. And, but it was great. I loved riding the horses, and I loved being up there in Sonora, California. And when I wasn't working, I was fishing and going in the bar. And the local miners would be there, and they had a chicken that would be on a bingo card, and you bet the right number that you shit on. Around, so we spent hours watching this chicken wait for shit. That was when they say chicken shit town. Chicken shit town. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. And the movie was fun.
Well, listen, we're gonna give the audience a chance to ask some questions. But before we do, I have another special guest who couldn't be here today, but he wanted to participate in the question and answer segment. So we have a little message. Let's run it. Co-producer, co-writer, creator, Mr. Bob Gale.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Gale. Welcome to Wizard World. Thanks for coming to this Back to the Future event. Sorry I can't be there with you, but that's why I was asked to record this video so that I could answer 2 of the most asked Back to the Future questions. Question number 1, will there ever be a Back to the Future Part 4? The answer is no. No way. Back to the Future is a trilogy, and as long as Bob Zemeckis and I have something to say about it, it will remain a trilogy. Now, question number 2. Will there ever be a Back to the Future reboot or remake? And the answer is no. You're leaving it alone. Besides, you're going to do a remake of Back to the Future. Who are you going to put in it? You've got the best cast you could ever imagine. Answer the questions. We are going to leave well enough alone. Back to the Future is what it is. So, enjoy the panel and see you in the future.
Which leads to my question. My question is regarding Crispin Glover. I was wondering if any of you 3 have any type of relationship with him now, and would he be welcome to join you 3 at any of these Comic Cons?
Well, I'd love to have him. I'd love to. I haven't seen Crispin in years, and I don't have a relationship with him, but I'm a uber fan, and I just love him to death. And he had from both Back to the Future, and he played a friend of mine on Family Ties. He did a couple episodes, and he was great. And I just love Crispin.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's so amazing in Back to the Future 1. He's like such a genius, a comic genius. And yeah, I wish he would come and do these with us. He would be very, very interesting addition. What comes out of his mouth is like not what you expect.
You remember him. He do something memorable.
I see him at Sundance sometimes, wandering around looking very fabulous.
Okay, thank you. Right here.
Hey, thank you guys for coming. I was just wondering if you guys could maybe do your favorite lines from the trilogy for us.
All of them?
I'm okay staying if you want to do all of them.
Who's going first? All right, I'll go first. Oh my God, it's Calvin Klein.
Rose, where we're going, we don't need.
My mom.
How'd you make the DeLorean fly in Back to the Future 2?
How do you make the DeLorean fly in Back to the Future 2? You should know this.
Flux capacitor.
Power conversion.
Oh,
That too.
There you go. Thank you. All right. How about this young man over here?
How did Doc and Marty become friends?
I don't know. We didn't really discuss it. It's funny we never talked about that. But I was going to assume that you were a teacher or someone that kind of mentored me, and we became co-conspirators and all this stuff. Yeah, you can go to a dark place, but I don't go there.
I don't know, somehow I felt that Marty became very curious about the strange stuff I did with all the clocks and the things I invent. Kind of, it's kind of an interesting creature to be hanging around with.
We've been in a Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Your plans for stuff on my guitar.
And maybe I engaged him as my assistant to put things together in my shop, something like
And
that.
his parents were really weird at home.
And I really became kind of dependent on him. And thus,
That's where we pick up party. Okay, young lady.
This question is for Christopher Lloyd.
Yes?
In the Adams family, when you were Bester, did you actually eat bugs?
no. I wish I could say yes, but
Big question, honest answer. Thank you very much. Sir?
Love the trilogy. I hate people that nitpick them. Any time travel movie is going to have alternate takes on things or what you think time travel should be like. But one thing I've always wondered is in part 3, was it ever discussed in the script that maybe Doc and Marty could go strip the other DeLorean down for parts?
Oh, I'm going to take this one. That's been discussed many times. There's a lot of different theories on it. So go on social media and Google that. You will find every conversation you possibly can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi guys, Chris and Lee, I met and spoke to you guys in Fort Lauderdale, the film festival there, so my question is for Mike. Actually, we spoke in 2002 during your Walk of Fame star. I was the guy that while you were trying to find your words and you were like, this is so great, this is, I yelled out, heavy, and you go, yeah, heavy. And you had a small bit with Gary Oldman, and I was just wondering if you had any little remembrances of working on Bob Gale's feature debut or working with Gary Oldman in that little scene where you door his bicycle and you have a little chat on the street after your cell phone breaks and all that.
Yeah, it was shot up in Toronto. I went up for a couple of days and shot the scene. It was great, and I love working with Gary Oldman. He's amazing. I remember that it was the Much Music Awards, like in Toronto. So I went to ended up going to this party with a bunch of people, and Joey Fatone was there. And as I remember, someone called him Joey Fat One, and he got really pissed off. And there was a fight, and I remember just being, this is surreal. I'm in Toronto doing this movie with Gary Oldman, and I'm watching a Backstreet Boy having a fight with it was one of those great moments.
Thank you. Yes.
First off, to all three of you, I think I can speak on everybody in this room. Thank you for being such a magical part of our formative years. The question that I have for the three of you, as Bob stated earlier, there's not going to be any remake or reboot. But if they didn't have that type of creative control, are there any current actors that you could see taking your roles in a remake that you wouldn't be offended by?
I'm sorry, that was a spin-off of the question that has already been answered.
For me, if I were to do this movie again, and I say I would be in it, but I just see Marty as a girl.
My daughter Lloyd looks just like me. She's an actress, so I would say she could play my part, and that would be cool.
I'd be happy to audition again.
Well, obviously, the Enchantment Under the Sea dress was the best costume out of the whole trilogy, of course. But if you had to pick a time period of the best costumes, which time period did you guys like the best?
I don't know. I like the old. I like that dress. That was great. I was really uncomfortable with it. I still have it. Can't wear it even when I'm anorexic. Can't get it. But I like the West costumes. Those are always really cool. The old West.
I go Western stuff, man.
You like that? That was a crazy outfit.
Oh, I'm a fashion horse. But yeah, well, I didn't so much like the pink outfit as much. I was crazy about that. But I like the Clint Eastwood, what do you call it, serape, poncho thing. That was cool.
About the costumes. Which costumes do you like best? Yeah.
I think I probably had only one.
That was great too.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I know it's not happening, but if they did a Back to the Future reboot and found completely new actors, would any of you want to have cameos?
Yes. Probably. Yeah.
What do you even want to watch?
Cameos.
I don't know. I don't think I want to do cameos. I just want to.
I think that's a pretty moot point, but thank you for asking. Yes, young lady.
This question is up for all three of you. What part of the movie Back to the Future was your favorite part?
Favorite part, Back to the Future. I think for me, my favorite part was the whole sequence where we're in a car and you're like, oh my God, you're so forward. And then he gets out of the car and then Biff tries to take advantage of me and then Crispin comes. And what I like about that part was that there was so much plot that had to be done with acting. Like when I kissed you and I had to go from being in love with you and then had to turn off and be like, it's kissing my brother, you know. There was so much in that scene that was so beautiful and had to change just with acting. And I think that's a magical thing in a kind of a special effects movie where your acting has to sell something. And I just love that sequence and the music's so beautiful for me. And of course I was in it.
I love that scene. I love that scene. I think you're great in that scene. My favorite scene, though, for me personally, was the Johnny B. Good scene. Loving guitars and loving guitar players, and I had all these heroes of mine, and when we set out to get the scene ready, I worked with a choreographer and a guitar coach, and my guitar teacher taught me how to play everything that was pre-recorded, it already been recorded, but he told me how to finger sync it so I could play it. And then the editor could actually match up me hitting the actual notes with the music, and I thought that was really effective. And to do, like work with choreographer and say, I want to do some Chuck Berry, and I want to do some Jimi Hendrix, I want to do some Eddie Van Halen, and I want to do some Jimmy Page, and just Pete Townsend, and work all that stuff in, work the windmill, and work the knee slide, and work the buck, and work the Eddie Van Halen tapping harmonics, and it was for a guitar freak. It was just guitar nerd. It was just great.
You played that again on stage.
Yeah, Chris Martin from Coldplay is a really big Back to the Future fan, and his son is a big Back to the Future fan, and so his son asked him, why did he have Marty McFly come and play Back to the Future, play Johnny B. Good with him? So I went to MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, and in front of like 80,000 people, I came out and played Johnny B. Good, and it was horrifying. I really shredded it. It was fun.
Sir.
I can't tell you how many McFly jerseys I saw at Wrigley Field last year. With the prediction, the movie made with the Cubs winning the World Series in 2015, and getting so far into the playoffs. Did any of you watch, pay attention to, or even root for the Cubs?
Oh yeah, I was planning on coming down. It just didn't happen.
There's always next year. Sir.
Let's go Cubbies, right. Thank you again, guys, for coming. Leah, you look beautiful as always. And this question is for my man Mike. I was thinking if you actually had the opportunity to have the DeLorean for real, and it came, you know, and there's a DeLorean here, but if you had the time, you know, opportunity to time travel or go wherever you wanted or whatever, whenever you wanted, where would you go? What would you do?
Well, the temptation would be to go into the future and find when we have answers to things that we don't have answers to now,
Yeah.
and then bring those answers back and immerse the process. But it wouldn't work, and it wouldn't be a good idea. But I mean, I don't think. I mean, time travel backwards is there's all kinds of places I like to go. I like to see stuff, but I wouldn't want to be in it. Like I'd like to see some Civil War era stuff, but I wouldn't want to get my ass shot up. And I worked with Woody Allen one time, and he said, we were having a conversation about time travel on the set, a bunch of people, and he was kind of lingering off to the side doing his Woody Allen thing. And then he kind of popped in, and he said, what are you talking about? He said, where would you go if you time travel? And he said, I would go anywhere, anytime before they invented penicillin.
Right, good answer.
So I mean, I kind of feel like that. Like I love to time travel to nights, to old England, but I wouldn't want to get the plague. or get my head chopped off. So I mean, I don't know. I like the movies.